we had Miz TV with Bayley, and this is where things get interesting. Bayley has new music, which is a welcome change. It was kind of generic, but, it's a start. I'm sure they'll probably change it again at some point, but at least they know that they couldn't use that same theme song. And Bayley comes out with Sasha Banks. Miz asks Bayley for an explanation after they show the footage of what happened last week, and Bayley popping all of the Bayley buddies, all that. Bayley at first says that she doesn't owe Miz or anyone else an explanation, but Miz prods away at Bayley, even saying Bayley is the champion that can't talk. What are you, Brock Lesnar? And then he points at Sasha and says, "Are you Paul Heyman?" That was kind of funny, but Miz basically prods away at Bayley until Bayley does give an explanation. And she goes into this, and she says that she tried to be a role model. She gave everything to the fans, points out like high fives, hugs, ponytails, and all that. And all they did was take. Says when she won the women's title, she elevated the division when she won it the first time. And to that I kind of laugh and point to Ember Moon and ask how she was elevated. But nonetheless, Bayley goes on, when Charlotte beat her at Hell in a Cell, it hurt. She was in pain, in tears, and none of the fans that she had given to were there for her. There was no one to hug Bayley after this loss. Goes on to say, she used to think the women's division lacks opportunity, but now she thinks it lacks passion and desire. And the finishing line, which I found very interesting. Bayley finishes by saying, "You want some inspiration? Life sucks, and then you die." So right when I heard this, and she didn't say it like that, by the way, but right when I heard this, I could tell Vince McMahon wrote this promo. I would bet that Vince McMahon, word for word, wrote this promo by that ending alone. Because if you remember the original Vince McMahon, "Life sucks and then you die" promo, it wasn't exactly like this. In fact, it wasn't at all like this, really just the closing line. But if he didn't write this promo, he came up with that closing line, at the very least. But, if you remember that promo in, the 90s, maybe, I don't think it was 2000 yet, but the late 90s, they had that whole thing. It was one of my favorite promos, really, of all time, because it had Vince. He's going through all these situations of where, good people get screwed over, some of the examples were driving around in the parking lot, you're waiting for the spot to open, and then finally it does, and then someone else, like Vince himself, runs in, cuts you off, and takes the parking spot, and then you're just left saying, "That's not fair." And, Vince just goes on and on with, these sort of real-life comparisons, and then has the closing line, where he says, "Life sucks, and then you die." One of the all-time great promos, if you ask me. I would put it in my top 10. So the problem, though, and we'll get to this, the problem with Vince possibly writing this promo is that Vince would be writing this for himself and not for Bayley. And that's really the overwhelming problem with, WWE promos in general, is that they're too scripted, no one feels genuine. Bayley didn't feel like... I don't want to say this was a bad promo, because it wasn't. Bayley did well with what she had, with what the line she had. She delivered them well, but it didn't feel authentic. Like, it didn't really hit me like a real... When you do, like, the heel turn, and then you get to the big promo where you reveal your intentions and why you did this and why you did that, I feel like that is something that should really hit home at some point. And, this was fine, but it never really got to that level for me. And I think that just comes down to someone else putting words in Bayley's mouth instead of letting her just do what she feels will work, what she feels she can convey in the most genuine way. And so I think that hurts it. This obviously wasn't as good as the Vince McMahon original Life Sucks and Then You Die. No kidding, right?